Well, good morning, everybody. Rob here in Bakersfield, California, on the Sportster 72, and welcome to this week's Throwback Thursday. Today's story is titled Dumb and Dumber. I was working at Eastern Division, Unit 46 John, up in the Sierra Mesa area, north of Interstate 8, west of 805, south of Arrow Drive, and bordered by, what was that, the 163, I think, on the west side, if I remember correctly. Just above Jack Murphy Stadium. Of course, Jack Murphy Stadium is called something else now, but I still call it Jack Murphy Stadium. Anyways, if I remember correctly, it was a Saturday morning, or it might have been a Sunday, but it was a weekend, because everything was really quiet. Seemed like the whole city was sleeping off Friday night. Not much happening. And over the radio comes a call, 211 armed robbery at a liquor store down on El Cajon Boulevard, which is south of me on the other side of Interstate 8. But it's still in my division. So the responding unit down there, that's his beat, he's heading to the liquor store. I figure I'm going to go down there and sit up on the freeway on-ramp, see if I can catch them leaving the neighborhood and jumping on the freeway to get out of the area and not get caught. I don't bother telling the dispatcher I'm heading that way, though, because, you know, most of the time they get caught before you even get there, so why waste my time? And you want to keep the radio frequency clear in case any more information comes out. So I'm heading down there, heading south on 805, heading down there. I'm going to cut over, go to the nearest on-ramp just east of the location of the liquor store. And sure enough, the dispatcher comes back on the air and comes out with a description. It's a 64 Chevy Impala, white. Gives the California license plate number. Two white guys, wearing Halloween masks, armed with black semi-automatics, headed south down the alley from the liquor store and turned left, headed east. Now you wonder, okay, how'd they get all that information? Well, they parked in the alley, left the engine running, which attracted the attention of a neighbor who was in his backyard having coffee. So he went and peeked out a hole in the fence. And he's sitting there watching these guys through the hole in the fence, putting on their Halloween masks, getting their guns, getting out of the car and walking around the corner to the liquor store. So, you know, he's no brain surgeon, but it don't take much to figure out what's happening. So he calls in and gives all the information to the dispatcher. And sure enough, the 211 comes out from the liquor store. So we got all the suspect info. And I'm thinking, oh great. You know, how many white 64 Chevy Impalas are they going to be out running around that time of the morning? Not that many. I mean, yeah, we got a lot of 64 Chevy Impalas in San Diego, and there might be quite a few white ones, but they're not going to be out running around that early in the morning. So I get down there, get set up on the freeway on-ramp, and nothing. It's just dead as can be. So I figure, oh, dang it, I got there too late. Or they went the other direction and I missed them. So I go on up to the top to El Cajon Boulevard, and I'm going to go down around the block and turn around and come back and get back on the freeway and go back to my beat. Excuse me. I get down there, make a U-turn on El Cajon Boulevard, and I come back up, and I'm just about ready to jump on the freeway and head back to my beat. When what do I see? But a white 64 Chevy Impala sitting in the parking lot of the motel on the corner, with a guy sitting in the passenger seat. And sure enough, the license plate matches. So I'm sitting there a little ways down in the corner. I know he can see me, I can see him. I get on the radio and I call dispatch. She gets on there, you know, all kind of perturbed, you know, what do you want? I tell her where location. I say, I'm sitting here looking at the suspect's car sitting in the parking lot of, you know, blankety blank motel, license plate such and such. Can I get a cover unit? So then all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, you know, call up coverage for 46 John at such and such a place on Elkhorn Boulevard. Okay, well, I get a unit, pulls up behind me, so now we got two guys, we're ready to go take these guys down. But we had the one guy sitting in the passenger seat, no driver. Well, the guy in the passenger seat, he looks back at me, he sees me on the radio. We make an eye contact, and all of a sudden he turns and he looks at the guy standing on the corner in the phone booth. And they make eye contact, and then they start doing these hand signals back and forth to each other. And all of a sudden I realized, well, there's the driver in the phone booth, on the phone. Huh. Which was kind of weird. So I get on the radio and I tell him, okay, I got the passenger sitting in the passenger seat. He's already eyeballed me. Suspect number 2 is in the phone booth on the corner. We need another unit to take him down. So the ambulance unit, which is a 2-person unit, they're responding from the Balboa Park area, and they come hauling ass over. And so just about the time they get there, we all 3 go in. I pull up in behind the car into the motel parking lot, do a hot stop. I unlock my passenger side door so the other officer can come up behind me and get in behind it. He pulls right in behind me, he runs up around, comes up the side of my car, throws open the passenger side door. We're drawing down on the guy in the car, doing a hot stop on him. The ambulance unit, it comes flying in a screeching halt, almost takes out the phone booth, traps the guy inside the phone booth because he can't get out the door now. They jump out and draw down on him. So I'm sitting there, got one eye on the passenger that we're doing the hot stop on. I got the other eye on the guy in the phone booth because I'm afraid he's going to start shooting, you know, because I'm right like 90 degrees off from him, exposed, don't have any cover there. Well, the guys in the ambulance unit, they got him pretty well under control. They got his hands up, you know, and everything, so I'm not too worried now about him. So I go back to concentrate on the passenger. And the other unit that had pulled up behind me, Officer Rodriguez, he had took over on the hot stop. He was giving the guys orders, you know, told him to get out of the car, put his hands up on the roof and everything. So we move up, I go up the driver's side, he goes up the passenger side, and I'm checking the inside of the car, make sure there's no other suspects hiding in the back seat and everything. He comes up and starts patting down the passenger, looking for the weapons, and I look in and I'm sitting there on the front driver's side seat. There's a bag of money, the black t-shirt they were wearing, the Halloween mask, but no gun. The guy in the phone booth, ambulance says, no gun. Officer Rodriguez says, no gun. I'm thinking, where in the hell's the gun? The guy, I'm standing right on the driver's side. I look across at him, making eye contact at him. He's looking at me. He still hasn't been handcuffed yet. He looks down inside the car and looks at that, hello, highway patrol. Looks at that black t-shirt and the bag of money and the Halloween mask sitting there, and all of a sudden it dawns on me. That damn gun's probably sitting under that black t-shirt. All it's going to take is for him to dive in that open passenger side door and grab that gun, and we're going to have a shootout. Which, as you all know, is something I never wanted to have to do, and never did have to do. Never did have to shoot and kill anybody. And I didn't want to again this day. So I reach in and I grab all that stuff because it's sitting there in plain sight, and that's all evidence. And sure enough, there was the gun under the black t-shirt. So Officer Rodriguez over there on the passenger side, he gets suspect number 2 handcuffed. And I think it was Officer Stone was the driver of the ambulance, and he had a trainee with him, I believe. They were getting that guy all handcuffed in. I was grabbing all the evidence there out of the front. Got that big bag of money, the Halloween mask, the black t-shirt, and the gun. I take it back to my car, stick it in the front seat of my car. I got the guys handcuffed, and Officer Rodriguez takes the guy back to my car, sticks him in the back of my patrol car. And he's going to give me the arrest since I was basically the one there. He could have took the arrest, which would have been fine, and I didn't care either way. So then we're sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, they said there was 2 guns and I only got 1 gun. We're, looking around in the car. We can't find the second gun anywhere in plain sight or anything. And I'm not the one who did the pat down on suspect number 2 that's sitting in my back seat. So I'm wondering, okay, well, did Officer Rodriguez miss the second gun or not? I don't know. I decided to get the guy back out of the car and check him myself, make sure. Well, I got him out and I'm patting him down and, he don't have any gun. Well, all this is going on. The officers that were taking the actual crime report at the liquor store, they get the witness that had been in his backyard. They get him and bring him out down to the scene, and he says, yep, those are the 2 guys I saw sitting in that car putting on the Halloween mask and walking into the liquor store with guns in their hands. So, they're pretty much all done, right? And those guys go back to take the crime report. I take my suspect down to book him into jail for armed robbery and book in all the evidence. And Officer Rodriguez got to take the other suspect, the driver, he got to take him down and book him because we can't transport suspects in an ambulance. So we get them all booked and everything, right? Then we're talking to the guy as we're going down there. And of course, I don't bother to read him his rights because I'm not going to ask him any questions about the crime. Now, this is a little information here for all of you. If the officer is not going to ask you any questions directly related to the crime that you are being arrested for, he does not have to give you your Miranda rights. If he's just going to sit there and talk to you and bullshit with you as he's driving you down to the jail, he don't have to give you your Miranda rights. He only has to give you your Miranda rights if he is going to question you in regards to a crime that he thinks you're responsible for. Okay? And I wasn't doing that. I was just talking to the guy. Now, as we're going down there, he, of course, starts making what we call spontaneous admission. And he's sitting there griping about how his dumb shit partner had to stop and call his wife to let her know that they had gotten away with the armed robbery and that he was coming home with the money. And as for the second gun, we never did find the second gun. And it turned out that the gun was one of those CO2 pellet guns that they had removed the orange tip or whatever from it. It looked just like a real gun. Actually, back then, I don't think they were even required to have the orange tips back then. Yeah, they didn't even have orange tips. So, yeah, it turned out to be one of those CO2 pellet gun things instead of a real gun, but they could have very easily got themselves shot for that. Because I didn't know it wasn't real until I actually picked it up, looked at it, and inspected it. I mean, it felt and looked like a real gun to me. So anyways, months later, we go to court. I have to testify. And of course, their defense attorney sitting there going, her big thing is, well, why didn't you just impound the car? Why did you reach in and seize all the evidence? She was trying to get all the evidence kicked out of court on an illegal search and seizure. There was nothing illegal about the search and seizure. Sitting there in plain sight, within arm's reach, totally legal for me to grab it, which I did. And as I told her, I had been told over the radio that they were armed with semi-automatic black handguns, and I didn't see any. And I figured that it was probably laying underneath that t-shirt. And when I reached in there and grabbed it, because, he could have jumped in that open door and we'd have had a shootout and I would have had to kill him. Sure enough, there was the gun under the t-shirt. And that's why I reached in there and grabbed all that stuff. So then her next thing is that, we had a illegal lineup on the street. Well, there's nothing illegal about getting the suspect back out of the car and having the witness brought down and identify your suspect at the scene right after the fact. That is totally legal, or at least it was back then. Maybe the laws have changed it now, I don't know. I don't keep up on it. So anyways, they ended up plea bargaining out. Took a bus for armed robbery. And they threw out the enhancement for having a gun because it was a toy gun instead of a real gun. But that's the story of Dumb and Dumber. And like I always said, it's a good thing crooks aren't very smart. Because if they'd have had any sense at all, instead of turning, what they did is they made 3 lefts. They made a left at the end of the alley, went down the block or 2, made another left, came back up to El Cajon Boulevard, made another left, drove back down, stopped in the motel parking lot to use the phone, and they were only sitting about 3 blocks away from the liquor store that they had just robbed. So, that's my story. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I thought it was funnier than heck. And it gives you a little information about Miranda rights and search and seizure and so on and so forth. Y'all take it easy, ride safe, and see you next week on Throwback Thursday. Bye-bye.